Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you for taking the time to check out today's live stream, where, of course, we're going to be going over the topic of building muscle while managing a busy life. So, of course, guys, I do want to thank you for taking the time to check out my streams that I've been doing here on YouTube. Um, I've really enjoyed, again, sharing these topics with you guys and continuing to give you guys advice that you can take with you because that's my main focus when it comes to everything I talk about in these streams is to, of course, give you guys some insight on, various things related to fitness, nutrition, as well as catering it, of course, to you guys who you know, LGBTQ men who are 30 plus and living busy lifestyles. And that's what I want to make my focus on, of course, to continue to share this content with you guys and to, of course, give you valuable insight on how you can make use of this. So, again, all of this is really, tangible, information that you can make use of. So definitely, take notes on anything that I share. If there's any questions that you guys have on anything I've discussed here, or even on another stream, feel free to let me know. I always try to, make sure that I make things as clear as possible so that you can understand what I'm going through and not making everything, as detailed as like when we're talking about, fitness, because fitness can get to the point to where it can be hard to understand, with some of the certain terms that are sort of thrown around. So, I want to make it my focus to clear that up and to make understanding fitness a little bit more tangible and again, make it more down to earth in how we approach it. So, with this stream, we're going to be going over different tactics on how you can make the most of your fitness routine and allowing it to, of course, be easily integrated into your life. And like I've said, my main focus is to help busy men. So that's why, busy men that are LGBTQ, and that's why, I want to dive into this topic because I think it will make a difference in how you approach fitness. Because I think fitness should be approachable. It shouldn't have to be something that you have to work around. It should be easily integrated in your lifestyle, into your life to be able to, again, make it consistent and to, give you a dedicated and disciplined routine. So let's go ahead and move forward. So there's going to be a few different points that I'm going to discuss here in this stream. One thing I do want to share with you guys is that if you haven't already, definitely check out my website, bponlinefitness.com. I'm always uploading to that website pretty much every day. And I won't say every day, but I keep it as updated pretty much every week. So again, it's bponlinefitness.com. There's a ton of information on there that I share, not only related to online fitness coaching, but information that is free for you to access, such as my fitness blog. You can sign up to my email newsletter there as well. So that's, of course, there for you to take advantage of. If you have questions about anything on there, feel free to let me know. So let's go ahead and go into this topic where we're going to be starting out with consistency beats perfection. So again, our main focus with what we're talking about is how to manage a workout routine in a busy life. So the way that you have to start out is to make consistency the priority. So you don't need to be perfect in your workouts. You don't need to be perfect in your meals or your timing. You need to be able to create repeatable habits that are going to fit in your life. So when it comes to, creating these repeatable habits, you have to learn to train 3 to 4 times per week. That's going to give you a good starting point, even if they're short training sessions. You want to focus on hitting your protein target daily, focus on quality reps over quantity, and keeping workouts structured but also flexible at the same time. So, the more that you focus on that, the more it's going to help you, again, to build this stable base in your routine. So, as we move forward here, the other thing you need to think about is the minimum effective dose. So I've just gave you basically a good starting point on how you should approach your workout routine. And this next point here is where we sort of approach our workouts themselves and how intense those workouts are. So, what you need to think about is the sweet spot for growth. So, a minimum effective dose is, again, well, to clarify what that means, is basically just the minimum amount you need to help to aid in muscle gain. So the sweet spot for growth. So there's a minimum amount of work needed to stimulate muscle, and anything beyond that should have a purpose. So you need to focus on, not trying to do the most possible, but starting, at the minimum, starting with the basics. You don't want to add junk volume, so you don't want to add too many extra sets with low focus on poor form and fatigue and not results. So you want to make sure that how you approach your workout, that it's staying within a strict sort of blueprint where you're focusing on a certain amount of sets, a certain amount of reps, and sort of staying within that range. Intensity matters too, more than excess volume. So you want to, of course, focus on a manageable intensity. You don't want to, go overboard and try to, completely exhaust yourself. You want to have a good balance, especially starting out. So training close to failure with good form drives hypertrophy more than endless sets. So what it means to train to failure is basically, or training close to failure is basically where you are getting close to the point to where, as far as your reps, you can't perform those reps as effectively as you're like moving forward. So when you get to a point to where you're struggling to keep up with form and how you lift the weights, that's when you're getting sort of close to failure, if that makes sense. So you want to focus on training close to failure, but you also want to make sure that you are having good form in those workouts. Another thing too is that recovery is a part of that dose as well. So the goal is to leave the gym with energy and to grow and not drain beyond recovery. So you don't want to be completely drained after the gym. It's a balance with how you approach the workouts that you perform as you go into the gym. So again, like what I've discussed in the first slide, it's more about your consistency. When you're starting out with a routine, it doesn't have to be that you have to work out like every single day of the week. All you need is a few days to start out with, roughly 30 minutes, in those workouts, and then you progress from there. And that's, the good starting pattern that you need to think about. So the next point is a workout that fits a busy schedule. So having a workout that's going to fit a busy schedule is very simple. It's not that hard again to do. It may take some time to, get into the rhythm and to get into that schedule that's going to work for you. But as long as you're willing to, build this, it will happen. So, like I just mentioned, with your workouts, they don't have to be long as you're getting started. So short doesn't mean ineffective. So even if you're doing a short amount of workouts, if that's 30 to 45 minutes of focused training, it could still build just as much muscle as longer or unfocused sessions. So what you need to focus on is, again, at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes of a workout. That's all you need to focus on when you're starting out. And again, this fits a busy schedule at the same time. So not only when you're starting out, but when you're trying to integrate, fitness into a busy schedule. Efficiency drives results, so less rest time is going to lead to better exercise selection and higher intent, more done in less time. So with your rest periods, what you need to think about primarily is basically staying in a shorter rest period can help you to make that, get more, exercises in without having to, compromise all the work that you're doing. So if you focus on, shortening your rest periods, it gives you so much more time to add exercises into your routine and to really get a well-rounded routine. So usually with rest periods, the minimum you want to sort of be at, and what I mean by rest periods is basically your rest between the sets that you're performing. So in between those sets, roughly 30 to 60 seconds is kind of what you want to focus on with how long, between for that rest period. So that's going to help you again to stay, where you need to be. Consistency beats duration. So a routine you can repeat is going to be crucial. So 3 to 4 times per week is more powerful than a long workout you can't sustain. Compound movements also are going to save time. So exercises that train multiple muscle groups at once give you more return per set. So that's another thing that you need to think about, when it comes to, workouts that you're going to perform as you're, trying to build this routine in a busy schedule, is that you're focusing on getting workouts that are more compound based, where an example of those workouts are like your squats, your presses, things of that nature. And the reason those are compound is because they're using multiple muscle groups. They're not oscillating a particular muscle. And, like when we're talking about, a bicep curl or a tricep extension or anything to that effect, we're targeting and oscillating a particular muscle in those. But when we're talking about squats and, presses, those are using multiple muscle groups. Even though there may be a specific muscle that we're targeting in those, the fact that we are, of course, you know, engaging multiple muscle groups allows us to, again, we're engaging all those muscles rather than just oscillating one particular muscle. So you're able to target those all at once in a single set rather than oscillating one particular muscle. And again, 3 to 4 workouts per week, that's going to be your good starting position. If you can do 2 times a week, that's totally fine too to start out. Again, what matters is that you start, building a routine that's going to work for you and that it's not going to be, you know, has to it takes you out of the way and it's completely something that you have to like go out of your way to do. You don't want to do that because the main thing you need to think about is how you can put this into your life. So the next point here that we're going to discuss is, kind of switching over to nutrition. So meal planning is another thing to sort of think about when you are, focusing on, sticking within this busy schedule. And that's the same concept kind of applies here, where structure is going to create that consistency. So when you meal plan and when you meal prep, in other words, too, this helps to sort of reduce that guesswork, in your nutrition. So your nutrition becomes more automatic to where you're not having to think about, trying to plan everything out. And you already have your calorie and your macro and your protein goals sort of already set when you are putting those meals together. So planning again is going to reduce that guesswork and help you to hit your calorie and protein goals daily. So, a good thing to think about, again, this is still focusing on the same topic to, working around a busy schedule. Focus on anchoring your protein in your meals. So, each meal should include a solid protein source to support muscle repair and growth. And an example of these, would be grilled chicken, any kind of lean meats that you can include. You could include plant-based protein, anything to that effect that's going to be your anchor. It's going to be the main portion of your meal. And then from there, you're going to add carbs. So carbs are going to fuel your performance. Sorry about that. And then strategic carbs are going to intake helps strategic carb intake is going to help power workouts and improve recovery. And then fats Another thing you're going to think about is fats are going to support hormone and health. So healthy fats keep your body functioning optimally during a muscle building phase. So when we're focusing on carbs and healthy fats, an example of those, when we're talking about healthy carbs to include, would be options like brown rice, quinoa, any kind of whole grain based options is going to be a good carb source to add. And then when we're talking about fats to support hormones and health, you want to think of avocados, olive oil. This could be nuts and seeds. Anything like that is going to be great to include. That's going to, of course, help with hormone regulation in the body. And again, preparation is going to prevent those missed meals. So when you meal prep and you meal plan, this allows busy schedules lead when you have busy schedules, it leads to missed opportunities. Planning ahead is going to keep you on track with where you need to be. So that's what you need to think about is focusing on planning ahead with your meals. Have an idea on, how you want to approach your intake for your meals. Prioritizing recovery when time is limited. So like when I mentioned with a lot of other, aspects of creating a structured fitness routine is that you do have to balance, of course, the three main pillars that I always mention in some of the streams. Whereas your main focus should be on, of course, your workouts, your nutrition, and your recovery. And when you have these balanced, that's when everything sort of aligns together. So prioritizing recovery when time is limited. So why does recovery matter when you're busy? The reason it matters is because when you have limited time, this is leading to a higher stress on your body. And so what this does is that recovery is going to be determined by progress and not just workouts. So with that limited time, you have to be strategic with how you approach recovery, and you have to be more intentional because you have a higher stress level, especially when you're busy. And so that leads to a higher cortisol in your body at the same time too. So poor recovery is leading to fatigue, plateaus, and burnout. So you have to again be smart. So focus on high impact recovery habits. Sleep should be your first thing that you should focus on. So you should aim for 6 to 8 quality hours whenever possible. And again, I've mentioned sleep before, and the way you approach, having those quality hours of sleep is to build a sleep schedule. And that's something I may discuss further again in, a future stream. But when you have a structured sleep schedule, a structured time to when you go to sleep, and then a time to when you wake up, that's going to help a ton. Hydration daily. So, this is going to support muscle function and energy. Yesterday in my stream, I really went over hydration. So, definitely check that out. It is posted here on YouTube. Um, and in that stream, I sort of went into detail with hydration. I actually showed also an app that I use to sort of keep track of hydration. So definitely make the most of that stream. It will definitely help you and give you a little bit of an idea on how you can track water intake. Protein and carbs. So again, protein and carbs do impact recovery. They are what's going to refuel, or excuse me, fuel, repair, and replenish energy stores in the body, which is going to keep you, up and really performing at your best, and really, of course, getting that proper muscle repair that's going to help with muscle growth. So train smart and recover smarter. So avoid going to failure every session. So you don't have to train to failure every session. To a certain point, it is very important to, of course, train to failure, but you do need to make sure that you pace yourself in your workouts as much as possible. So rotate your intensity. So, you know, what matters is that you have a shift in your intensity where maybe some days you're having really hard training days, and then on other days you may be doing lighter training days. So you want to sort of balance between the two and rotate the intensity when needed. And even with my clients at times, a lot of times I'll have them alternate between, doing sort of lower intensity days and then, going back to more higher intensity. And what that's known as is a deloading phase where you're intentionally, doing basically a lower intensity in your workouts so where you're not fatiguing yourself too much. So it's giving your body a little bit of time to sort of relax from those sessions. Short workouts, again, still require proper recovery. So even when we're focusing on, even when we have a limited time and then we're doing shorter workouts, we still need to prioritize recovery just as much because no matter how long our workouts may be, we still need to make sure that recovery and our nutrition is, both connected with our workouts themselves. So the next point I want to mention is minimal equipment and maximum results. So with a lot of clients that I work with, a lot of times whenever, if there's clients that maybe have a limited amount of equipment, I do actually, still train them efficiently. And even if you have less equipment, and again, even if you're strict, have a strict time frame, there's still a way where you can get a really good workout, even if you're limited on time and limited on equipment, or equipment, I should say. So, why less can still deliver more? So, muscle growth comes from tension, effort, and consistency. So, like I've mentioned in many streams before, is that how we control ourselves in the workout is what's going to matter more. So it's not necessarily about the equipment, but it's about how we engage that muscle and how we control the tension in the workout. So simple tools are going to reduce that barrier and are going to increase the intensity, or excuse me, increase consistency. So this is another thing too, if you have a busy schedule, where this is sort of eliminating those barriers that we, may be in place where it's like, well, we don't have access to a gym, or, you don't have access to, certain type of equipment. So there's ways that you can sort of reduce those barriers, of course, doing workouts at home or when you're traveling or things of that nature. So perfect for busy schedules, travel, or home training. So the key equipment that gets it done, and these are just, basic equipment that you can easily get. So you have your dumbbells, which are going to be versatile for full body strength. You have your resistance bands, which adds tension and joint friendly resistance. You have body weight, which is going to build control, stability, and endurance all at the same time. So focus on movement and not machines themselves. So again, with every workout, there's going to be a specific movement pattern that you can perform for those workouts. This, of course, can include push-based workouts, which are your push-ups, your presses. Generally, this focuses on upper body-based movements. Your pull workouts, which is your rows, your band pulls, and things of that nature. Your legs, which is your squats, your lunges, your hinge-based movements. Of course, this targets the lower body. And then what I forgot to mention, with pull-based movements, usually that targets the back most of the time when you're doing those types of exercises. And then with legs, you have squats, lunges, hinges, of course, that's lower body. Core is your planks, your carries, and your rotations. So this is all targeting the midsection in particular. So again, you don't need that much equipment. Even if you just have resistance bands, that's totally fine. Even if you can only work with body weight or if you can only work with dumbbells, there's many ways that you can add these into your routine that's going to give you, again, a well-rounded routine that's going to work for you. So that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss with you guys today and of course go over. I think that this is a very important topic in a lot of ways, especially not only if you're, more beginner based or you're just getting started, but for a busy schedule. And again, like I mentioned, that's my main focus is to help out, the men who are LGBTQ and who have a busy schedule, and, especially if they're 30 plus, to be able to have a workout routine that's going to work for them. And even if you have minimal equipment, even if you have a limited schedule, there are ways to work around all of those limitations. I've worked with many clients in the past, many clients that I work with now, where there's, restriction in what they have access to or, their time constraints that they have. And I've worked around all of those situations. There's ways that you can have a good workout routine and be able to get done what you need done. Even for me, whenever I was, building sort of my own workout routine is that I started with doing a lot of body weight movement. I did that for a long time and I was sort of researching workouts and finding workouts that I could do with limited to minimal equipment. And I was able to sort of build a rhythm with just that in itself. So you don't need a ton of, equipment to be able to, get the things done that you need done when it comes to, your workouts. So again, just keep that in mind that again, focus on the basics in your routine. Um, Thank you guys once again for taking the time to check this stream out. I know our count is a little bit lower today, unfortunately. Um, it may have been because I didn't, this stream kind of came up on me pretty quick, and I should have promoted it a little bit more than I did previously. But it's all the different streams that I'm managing. Sometimes it can be, kind of hectic to keep track of them. But I will definitely be doing another YouTube live. Again, guys, please, if you do find any of this helpful, I do not mind if you share it. My main thing is I really want to get this information out. I want to get what I share out. And if there's anybody that you feel can benefit from any of this, please feel free to share that. Even if it's even any of the other streams that I've discussed it, anything else that I've discussed here on YouTube or any of the other videos, whether it be short form videos I've done, like the YouTube shorts, feel free to share any of that if you find it helpful and you think that somebody could benefit from it, because I really want to, get this information out and help people. And it has been a little bit of struggle to get my, count up for some of these streams, but I'm going to keep showing up and hopefully people will listen. But thank you guys once again for your time. Again, feel free to share this. If you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know. Visit bponlinefitness.com for all that I have to offer related to online fitness coaching. But again, guys, thank you for your time. I'll have another course stream next Thursday here on YouTube, and I will have that up for you guys to, of course, be able to be notified on when that goes live. So thank you guys once again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream.